Hey, this is Brian again, and I'd like to ask you to do a favor. We can't do this work without people like you, so if you can, please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends about Bring Back the Porch.
I said, what the heck is rickets? It sounds like a disease that a pirate would get back in the 1200s if he's out to sea too long and not getting whatever vitamins, but that's scurvy, I found out.
This episode of Bring Back the Porch brought to you by Bernie Leahy, River Street Realty. Let's get you home.
Welcome to another episode of Manual Not Included, the podcast where I talk about my family, especially my son who, and I was thinking about this. I think last episode I said, or I call it special needs. I really don't like saying that about my son's special needs. I wouldn't. He does have special needs that he needs help with, but I don't want to say special needs anymore. I'm going to say for my son who needs a little bit of extra help in life. He's an extra help kid. No offense, if anybody else wants to use special needs who might be in the same situation as us, fine, whatever, I'm not saying anything. Me personally, I'm going to say he's an extra help kid. So about my son, the extra help kid, I think last episode I kind of finished off where they finalized the adoption. And some people have been commenting, or the videos pop up about the adoption and you see like how many people watched them, blah, blah, blah. You look at all that kind of stuff, who likes them and everything. And it continually dawns on me how much I forget that our son is adopted just because we've had him since literally the first minute that he was born. So I forget all the time that he's even adopted. And so doing this podcast has reminded me from the little video shorts that we see. And I always get reminded because the countless doctors and doctor's appointments we've had to have with him, and every time they're always like, what's your family history? And every time I always have to stop myself from saying my family history or my wife's family history because he's adopted. Those ones don't count for him. And I always think, oh yeah, my son's adopted. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's a good thing because I never ever think of him that way. But anyway, let's continue the story. My son's adoption was finalized. We have him at home. He is our son officially. Things seem normal baby stuff, late nights, all that kind of stuff. As he's getting older, he was never a chunky baby. Never. He had like skinny little arms and skinny legs, and no matter how much this kid ate, which seemed like a normal amount, you'd always see like the little ribs here, and bless him, a bit of a larger head, which I can giggle at now. I would never say this at the time, but as he's older, he has grown into his head. There's no worries here. He has officially grown into in his head. He is very proportionate now for his age. Just in his younger years, let's just say he could wear my hat as a toddler. But anyway, so yeah, cute curly hair, just a great smiley baby, loved to laugh, very inquisitive. He's always looking at you with this inquisitive look, and then he'd give you this big old goofy smile that was just the best. But as the months progress, you go see a pediatrician. Doesn't seem like anything's happening, anything bad, seems healthy to you. He wasn't a movement baby, just a lot of like arm flails and kicks, but, had to force him to roll over. As he got older, he didn't like to even stand and hold on to the couch, to try to walk along, let alone walk. We knew he was behind on that thing, but, every kid's different. I didn't think it was a big deal. But the one visit to the pediatrician, we get the diagnosis of failure to thrive. And, I love all doctors, but, they give you that look sometimes that, like, are you doing everything you should be doing? Which they have to. I get it. But you get that. That's a horrible thing to hear as a parent. failure to thrive? And you look up the definition, of course, and it just means his weight is so low that, yeah, he's not getting nutrients or something, but they did all the tests, and he's, everything seems all right. They're worried he had something called, and because he wouldn't walk, they're worried he had something called Rickets. I said, what the heck is Rickets? It sounds like a disease that a pirate would get back in the 1200s if he's out to sea too long and not getting whatever vitamins, but that's scurvy, I found out. At the time, I thought that's what Rickets was. But anyway, so because he wasn't walking properly or behind in walking, this is the very first time we had to go see a specialist in the many years to come until now. We had to go to physio at the hospital with our child. I don't remember much about that, actually. I remember, a lot of leg bending, playing with toys, try to bribe him. Because he loves foods, believe it or not, even though failure to thrive, that freaking kid could eat like a bloody champion. I always used to just bribe him with cookies. I don't know, that's the best parenting tip. If you want your kid to really learn how to walk, just dangle a cookie. Especially if they love food. Just dangle that cookie there, and it'll be fine. But yeah, the physio worked because he started walking, and he loves walking. That sounds so weird to say. He does. He's really good at it now. He's aces, He loves, in fact, the kid never stops moving. I don't know, it's obviously because of his ADHD, but the kid literally never stops moving. I can't remember the last time I saw him just normally walk anywhere. But anyway, failure to thrive. I said he eats like a champion, and it reminded me of a story of back when he was over one. He had to have been over one, yeah. And we decided to go for a, Easter breakfast brunch, like all-you-can-eat buffet type thing. Now, normally, being the guy I am, I don't like to splurge on all-you-can-eat buffets. I know I can pull my weight, but it's my wife and my daughter. They can't. They don't eat enough to justify the price of them going to an all-you-can-eat buffet. But I had my ringer this time because they put, where we went, they put on the menu like kids 3 and under are free. And I thought to myself, oof, they don't know what they've just gotten themselves into. And I'm not even over exaggerating. It had to have been at least 2 plates full of food. At least 2 plates full of food. Scrambled eggs, hash browns, bacon, sausage, desserts, toast. It didn't matter. This kid was shoveling it in like you wouldn't believe, to the point where the wait staff, not even just our waitress, would come to the table and say, I cannot believe how much food this kid is eating. I said, yeah, exactly. Failure to thrive. The kid eats too much food. But anyway, that was a good day. I remember that day. He had his little blue plaid shirt on, dressed up for Easter. Has curly hair. And he comes out with, food stuck to his face and stuck to his hair. But it was a good day. But anyway, I was talking about his tiny little body. He still's got a tiny little body and his little legs when he was younger. And unfortunately, his slightly larger head. But it made for some rough accidents. I think more so than most kids, because my wife ran a day home, so a lot of kids came through our house at a young age. But our son, oh boy, was he klutzy. I don't know if he was klutzy, but it's like his brain knew what it wanted to do, but that poor little body just couldn't keep up. He just wanted to go, 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 but it just couldn't keep up. And it's a few times it stuck out for me. Well, I didn't see the one. My wife had to tell me about it during the day home years. He was probably 3 or 4 then. And I get a call from work that the kid was running in the house, which he shouldn't be doing, we tell him. And he tripped and went headfirst into those big Duplo Lego blocks. And the thing was lodged in his head. And it had to get pulled out. And a shot of blood shot across the room. And then apparently the other day home boy started dry heaving. Obviously didn't like the sight of blood. So I gotta take our son to the hospital to get obviously stitches. So I gotta leave work, and my first stitches as a parent. And we go to the emergency room. They get him in right away, and we're sitting there. And I remember getting stitches when I was a kid because for some reason I still remember this when I was 5, I thought it was the bright idea to, jump on my bed and do flips on my bed, and I could do it. And I thought to myself, I remember thinking when I was 5, like, they say jump on the bed, what's going to happen? Nothing bad is happening. And of course I did it with the door was closed because I didn't want to get in trouble for jumping on the bed. But me and my sister shared a room, and she came in and she left the door open. And I decided to do another flip. And as I come around, my forehead whacks the corner of the door. I remember sitting there for a second, and I could feel the blood start coming down my head. And of course, I don't remember if I cried or not. I think I was more in shock than anything. And it just starts pouring out. And I remember I was only 5, so my sister was probably like 7 or 8. And my mom didn't drive. And my dad was, I think, working night shifts. He was a welder, working night shifts. And of course, we had to go to the hospital. But I remember sitting in front of our mirror, looking at myself in the mirror, and literally seeing half my face red with blood and half my face normal. And being a comic book fan, even when I was a kid, I thought to myself, I'm like, oh man, I look like Two-Face. But I remember having to go to the hospital. I remember there blood being all over the bathroom, of course, all over the walls on the way out, on the carpet, and we're all gone. And back then, before cell phones, I don't know why my mom probably didn't. I don't know if she didn't leave a note or whatever, but while we were in the hospital, I remember my dad said he came home to like this bloody massacre and nobody's around, and he didn't know where we were, and he was just freaking out, which I would have at the time too. But anyway, I remember getting my stitches. I remember them putting like some powder in there and it burning, and I remember them putting that bright light like 3 inches from my face, my eyes, and I remember them telling me you cannot blink. Whatever you do, like, you do your best not to blink, and having to stare at this bright white light. And they said, if you don't blink, if you're good, we'll give you a treat. And I thought to myself, oh, I can do this. I got this. And I remember them doing the stitches, and they told me after there's some like 12 stitches like inside the cut and like 18 outside the cut. So it was a big gash. But I remember when they finished and I did it, I remember it wasn't painful. It was more painful trying to keep my eyes open. And I was done. I turn over and they hand me like a mini box of Smarties that you get for Halloween. I remember just being crushed and disappointed that I did all that for a mini. I thought it was worth the full size, but the doctor staff didn't. But anyway, that was my story about stitches. But my kid's story, so I was expecting something like that. But clearly it's been, 25 years later, and medicine has evolved a little bit. And he comes in, he's like, okay, we're going to give your son a dose of ketamine. I'm like, ketamine? Like, isn't this some kind of horse tranquilizer that they give like adults? And they said, oh, it's a smaller dose. It numbs the pain and they don't remember anything. I said, oh, you're the doctor, whatever. And if you don't know this, if you give your child ketamine, I got to see at the ripe old age of 3 or 4, my son being absolutely stoned out of his mind. You could see the second they injected it that his pupils go wide and he just glazes over and stares off in the distance. So that's the first time, and hopefully only time, he gets stoned like that. Yeah, I said it. But they're great staff at the hospital, though. They're good. And because it's ketamine, you even get to sit with a nurse until they wake up, just to be safe. So you get to have awkward conversations in a dimly lit room with a complete stranger you don't know for an hour until your child wakes up. But he got those first stitches, the first worst Klutzy incident. In between that, I can remember a few of camping, just eating it in the dirt because, his legs can't keep up with what his brain wants to do. I don't know if it's like that for most kids, but like I said, we had a lot of day home kids, and our son seemed particularly klutzy when it comes to falling. And he did this thing where he would hardly ever put his hands out. We actually had to have a talk with him saying, can you please at least try to put your hands out when you fall? Everybody falls, but for the love of God, man, can you put your hands out to absorb some of the impact instead of your face? And one of the worst time, this one's burned into my head forever. I forget a lot of things, but this one I won't forget. We were at Callaway Park. And God bless him, he's running again, even though we tell him not to run anywhere. And he still runs to this day from point A. We can go to the mall, and he's skipping or trotting or jogging, walking fast, zooming until you catch up, and then he stops for a bit. But anyway, Callaway Park, and he was running, and he his head hit the ground. And it's Callaway Park. There's rides, there's noise, there's people everywhere. I still can hear the thunk of his head hitting the ground from like 30 feet of the way. And you just make you wait for it, the tears, which came. And we kind of checked on him. We're like, okay, no blood, just serious like road rash on his head. Like turning pink right away. Check him out for a bit. He seems cool. We're like, okay, we'll continue on our day. And we were staying at my sister's in Calgary. And we wake up the next day, and he's not in his bed. We're like, what the heck? Did he get up somewhere? Not watching TV? Okay. Not doing anything. Can't find him anywhere in this house. And here he is. He had somehow, and he doesn't remember this, and he never slept walked before, that he got up in the middle of the night. He doesn't remember how. And he's curled up behind a chair in the corner of a room, and we couldn't find him. And we're like, okay, that's dicey, whatever. That seems a little odd, but coincidence maybe. And then, almost right after, he throws up, and we're like, oh, okay, so is he getting sick now? Whatever. We pack up and go home right away, and we're kind of keeping an eye on him, and we don't want him to fall asleep. We're like, this might be a concussion. Do the old Google search, and you're like, temporary forgetfulness and throwing up. We're like, oh, it might be concussion. So right when we get home, back to the city, straight to the hospital. Sure enough, concussion. I think that was the first one. I think he said 2, maybe 3. Since then, that was the worst, though. I will forever remember that noise as that poor boy hitting the concrete. But that was his younger years. So his first diagnosis, failure to thrive, first specialist for physio. But it seemed like just one of those little blips in the road, on the way to, in his younger years, on the way to starting school, which next episode I'll talk more when he starts the early years in school. So when he starts changing his environment from, at home, play fun all the time, not as structured, to when he goes into school. Kindergarten was okay. I should probably save this for the next podcast, but as he goes on, you can really start to see the change in him, behavior both in and out of the classroom, just because of the structuredness of a classroom environment. But I will get at that part in the next episode. And don't forget, I appreciate the likes. I appreciate all of it. But don't forget, the biggest help to us and myself, subscribe to the podcast, Bring Back the Porch on, Facebook, follow us on Instagram, subscribe on YouTube, on Spotify, anywhere you listen to your podcast, subscribing, commenting, and sharing. Really get it out there. I want to connect with people as best as I can. If somebody's going through the same thing, the same experiences, and leave a comment. I love reading the comments. I'll even reply. You can message me, email, anything you want. And I'll see you on our next episode.
Hey, this is Brian again, and I'd like to ask you to do a favor. We can't do this work without people like you, so if you can, please like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends about Bring Back the Porch.